Alright guys, welcome to the show. I hope you sat there, either fucking scantily clad or dressed in your World Around You branded clothing. If you're not, go to worldaroundyou.com, order yourself a t-shirt, listen to these shows, and then come back to these shows when you've got your t-shirt and listen to the show in your t-shirt. Anyway, I'll let you crack on with the show. Alright guys, I'm the World Around You, and this is Pause for Thought on Threshold FM, and this week it's going to be a bit different. Now it may seem more noticeable to me because I know my own voice, but I'll be dead honest guys, I'm pretty tired. I haven't stopped now for weeks, and I do this to myself quite regularly, but this time it's been a bit different with helping my mum and dad move house and fucking up the car, the stress of all that, the stress of trying to set up my stuff for an exhibition, doing that for 2 weeks, barely selling a thing, dealing with people that weren't really keen on my stuff, dealing with people that didn't really seem to want me to take part in the exhibition because they fucking blocked me on Instagram, so I couldn't promote the fact I was taking part in it. Doing a wedding fair, preparing for the wedding fair, working nights at the studio, making loads of stuff out of resin. I mean, it means there's loads of dead stuff now on my website, fucking tons, which sounds like I'm trying to advertise it, and I guess I kind of am, because otherwise, how do I make money? But, I'm tired, and the thought yesterday of sitting and researching something for a day, it just seemed overwhelming, and I couldn't be fucked. So what I thought I would do is I've put together a playlist of some songs. I've wrote the Here's How, so don't worry, we're still going to have the Here's How. But I thought I'd use my uni dissertation, another thing where I did something wrong in uni, and we were told we could write about anything we wanted to, and then I wanted to write about what I thought it would be like to lock a baby in a cave with no love and no affection and no people, and just give it like a TV so it learns how to be a person, and then start giving it tools like hammers and screws and screwdrivers and wood to see if it would instinctively learn how to use those things. But the teacher said that was strange and had nothing to do with 3D design. So then I suggested that, what if I did, could the string vest come back in fashion? And he said he didn't think I'd be able to get 20,000 words or whatever it was out of that. And I did have a long list of ideas for it, but what I ended up settling on was something that I called useless designs, which was basically like very much like the books I've ended up writing now as a job. It's just a compilation of different stuff I found interesting, really, and different ways that items have been made that were either shit and not fit for purpose, or they were invented and then used for something else. So what we'll do is we're going to have a song to get us going, and then I'll crack on with this book and probably fill some bits in with just rambles of whatever's going on in my head. So this is Suicide Girl by Army of the Pharaohs, Planetary Apathy and Dope Nixon. So we'll get into it. What I'm going to do is I'm even going to give you the little contents page, not because I think I need to fill time, but because it's going to give you a little teaser of what's to come. So we've got a section that I called Reviews, Refuse and Revival. The Extractor, the Melon Slicer, the Sink Snake, Shoe Organiser, Novelty Faucet, a section called You Can't Put That There, another one called Keep It Closed, It's a Fire Door. Next section's called Open Wide and Say Arse. Sentimental Material, Keep It Clean or Wrap It Up. And then we've got the conclusion. Now I'll be honest, I can't really remember any of this. I remember little sections of it, but not enough to be able to tell you what each of those things are about. I mean, we can guess what the melon slice is about, and I remember what the sink snake looked like. The extractor, I think, was a thing. I'll describe the pictures to you as well in the best details I can. So, the Oxford Dictionary defines useless as serving no purpose. This document will be comparing designs and products that have been deemed useless by reviews, critics, and literal use of the word useless. Not all objects were created evenly. Some have been purposely designed to fill various needs. However, some were plucked out of the ether with an obvious "that'll do" attitude. Very much like this episode, boys and girls. That'll do. Through speculation, one could presume that the designer had to meet a deadline, or maybe they felt they were expected to release a new product because that's what they've done the past few years. Much like this episode, I've released one for the past few weeks and I've got to get one out. And It is with these excuses which has led to the sale and production of their useless designs. However, the writer does not know these people and feels no reason to excuse their behaviour. Instead, it is the author's belief that these designers have opened themselves up for ridicule, and that is their distinct intention. The ridicule of these otherwise successful designers, whether it's fueled by jealousy or a lack of respect towards the entire profession, is left to the reader's interpretation. Regardless of intent, this book will endeavour to provide you with some useless designs, a brief explanation of how to use the information provided, with a pinch of salt. This is a subjective topic. Generally speaking, quote-unquote user A may like the design and see why it's perfect. Conversely, quote-unquote user B may be totally perplexed as to why it works the way it does. There will be pictures of various designs, which I'll explain to you if I can, an explanation of how the product is intended for use, how the objects are actually used, and some personal opinions on the design. Please note, the personal opinion is the author's and does not represent the truth and should not sway the reader's judgment of the design. First section, reviews, refuse, and revival. A good way to find badly designed items is to read customer reviews on the internet. Sure, some of them might not be serious, but may be written by sour individuals who feel they've been ripped off. However, in this section, we're only going to see items that have predominantly bad reviews, so let us get started. The Extractor. Designed to peel hard-boiled eggs 10 times faster and easier, its sole purpose is to instantly peel hard-boiled eggs. To use the Extractor, the user needs to initially cook the egg to a hard-boiled state. The egg is then cooled for 10 minutes in cold water. Once cooled, the user identifies the shorter end of it. The piercer, located on the base, is then used to create a hole. Then, the opposite end, presumably known as the longer end, is gently cracked and then placed into the hole of the base, short end up. Even pressure gets applied to the bellows and forced down onto the egg. The shell then gets removed and the egg falls through the bottom. It's worth noting that on the demo, the user of the device failed to shell the egg on its second run through. So even the person that was showing us, look how great this fucking thing is, it didn't work. Like if they had like an honest advert for Monopoly, I guess, in a way, where they're like, oh, it's a great game, it's a fun game, and then they just show, you know, like fucking 5 family members holding each other by the throat, forcing fucking them little red hotels up each other's arseholes, trying to punch each other, saying, I've lost a day, you know, and screaming and crying. And a bit of honesty, you know, I like that there was honesty in the advertising with it as well, to be honest, because that's one thing that we do look for a lot in this show. We look for honesty, and it's never there. It will be interesting, though, to see if whilst I've wrote this all those years ago, like 5-6 years ago, did I have an obsession with the moon back here, or is it something that's happened to me in the meantime there? It will be interesting to see if there's anything comes up about it. I imagine there will be. This might not be a great episode to play the Parallax branded World Around You bingo, though. So if you are playing along with that, it might be a bit difficult. But we'll see how it goes, eh? Because I am gonna just let my mind wander with this one, because, like I say, I'm ill prepared, and it's not like me. It's not like me to be ill prepared. I know I am for truth seeking, but I think that's part of the magic of the show. I like to think that I come at this one knowing everything possible about the topic, but I mean, this time I've wrote this word for word, and I don't remember this. But let's carry on with the Extractor. When you take into account the 10-minute ice bath, the overall time to shell an hard-boiled egg is increased, so this time-saving device will only save the user time when they're shelling at least 20 eggs, using the time that was taken in the demo as an example. Seeing as this item is marketed towards the home market, it's difficult to see the benefits of this product, as odds are if someone is regularly shelling more than 20 eggs, they're going to have the knack for it, especially if they do it at home for the family. The item is useful, but only to a very small, unimaginable denomination of people. Consumers who suddenly have the need to shell nearly 24 eggs in a single sitting, with no prior experience. These people also have to have a recurring desire to consume all these eggs, and the author fails to see or know anybody who this appeals to. And then we've got Oh no, we'll get to that. Considering the author's opinion, though, at least 204 people have purchased the product from Amazon, so let's have a look at some consumer reviews to get a real grasp of the public's response to the Extractor with its overall score of 2.1 stars. Now, we might as well do some voices for these, haven't we? Shall we, let's try Scottish. We'll go for Pierce Brosnan, like that, you see. It's definitely not Pierce Brosnan, no, it's not Scottish either. Scottish, aye. This product is by far one of the worst things I have ever purchased. It definitely does not help peel the eggs. It doesn't even help in a way, shape or form. I was ecstatic that I had a gadget to help, and it was a complete and utter letdown. I think it cracked under a pressure. Do not buy. 1 star. And that was Annie from Glasgow, obviously. The item is a great idea, but doesn't work. I managed 1 out of 15 eggs, and they left 1 star as well. Now, 1 out of 15 eggs, that's a high fail rate, that, innit? Like, that's fucking less than 10% success rate. What would that be? What's that, like fucking 6.5? 7.25% success rate, 1 out of 15. Awful. Right, so to describe the Extractor to you, if you imagine like an old-fashioned iron lung that you attach someone who's had a fucking stroke or something to, and it goes up and down them fucking bellows. It's one of them made out of plastic, right? And you just put the egg in there, attached to a spike, and then you've got to basically smash it down as hard as you can with the palm of your hand, and hope that the spike doesn't pass through the egg, and your bellows, and your palm. Just seems like a poorly made thing, in my opinion. We got another review here. Oh my god, we followed the directions exactly and ended up with egg and shells all over the place. It takes super strength to push down the thing and the egg comes out mangled. Save your money and peel the old-fashioned way. Now that's someone that feels the need to tell people, you know how they tell people how to suck eggs. Telling them how to peel eggs. And I feel like I need to apologise, guys, because this is probably going to be one of the worst shows I've ever done. This is what I get for being lazy. But the watermelon cantaloupe slicer fruit stainless steel divider is the next item. Designed to make the cutting of melons fast and simple. For readability, this device is going to use the melon cutter effectively. The user needs to own a knife. The very thing this item is trying to replace. Once the person requiring melon is wielding a knife, they must cut off what is described as the tips of the melon. Then, they must cut the melon from middle. This is to separate the melon into 2 halves. With these 2 halves on a chopping board and the flat surfaces of the melon facing the tabletop, now the user can finally open up their new device and proceed to slice the melon into slices. The seller recommends the user may want to press down with alternating force on each side as to make the cut easier. After watching an online reviewer by the name of Kathy Otterson, it became clear to me that the slicer's got potential. It just depends to what lengths you're willing to go in order to slice your melon into 12 even pieces. Kathy has to place the melon on the floor in order to apply enough pressure to the device to cut through the rind of the melon. There's an obvious struggle at first, but she achieves it in the end. However, it is worth mentioning that Mrs. Otterson is somewhat of a heavy-set woman, and her weight on top of the melon is just enough to cut it. I don't know if someone with a healthier frame would accomplish the task as quickly. Kathy keeps a smile throughout though, even though her healthy snack is touching the floor in her garden, and probably encouraging ants into her house and that, and fucking insects and that, wasps, bringing wasps over me while you're trying to chop a melon. In summary, pretty much every household has a knife in a drawer somewhere, or maybe even a saw, like a fucking, doesn't have to be a special saw, it could be a Grecian saw, it could be a coping saw, hacksaw, So this item isn't the most useless item in this collection, but it's definitely a waste of money. Let's see what the reviews say. It just doesn't work at all. We couldn't even get through the rind, and that was with my husband applying his full weight to it. Please don't buy this. Had to throw it away, far too blunt to cut a melon. You need to have biceps like Superman to push through a melon. Fell apart after a week. Doesn't seem robust enough for melons. The first 3 reviews had a certain mental image, the image of a weedy little man precariously balanced on a melon on a kitchen table. However, they also show how this gadget doesn't do its job. The 4th review is interesting as it implies Yak, the user, is getting through more than 1 melon a week, yet has found an alternative mystery use for his melon cutter, as it's not robust enough for melons, but this feels like an unfinished comparison, as if he's found it's good for something else. And the picture of it kind of looks like a shit bike wheel with handles, but except the spokes are knife blades. Next one's called Sink Snake Drain Air Removal Tool, Plumber's Quality. Well, after all that time around food, we inevitably needed to visit the bathroom, and whilst we were there, we may as well give it a good clean. The Sink Snake, designed to be fed down your plug hole to grab all the air blocking your U-bend. No proper explanation is typed out on how to effectively remove that lost keratin from your pipes, although there is a 3-picture diagram, the gist of which suggests it's as simple as sticking it in the hole, giving it a slight tickle, and then pulling it out, and this should bring out all the air, attached in clumps at the hook, and the iPad at the end of a limp stick. Again, this seems an unnecessary solution to the problem, and from its reviews it seems to be adding to the problem, but we'll get into that a bit later. The solution to the sound of mind would be to use a thick drain unblocker. These tend to remove hair and blockages from U-bends, and there is little to no risk of adding to the build-up. However, in this age of the internet, the sound of mind are few and far between, as the world has idiots, and it's allowed them 24/7 access to poor information. That, coupled with the chance to act on impulsiveness rather than rationale, just leads to bad decisions. Now, this product does have its positives. It is more environmentally friendly than pouring chemicals down your sink, but this is a redundant point as lots of chemicals are poured down sinks in the way of toothpastes, shower gels and shampoos. It is also a little challenge that is sure to appeal to anybody who's having long-standing issues with the blockage and is having a bit of a slow Tuesday. Now, thinking about these chemicals, shower gels and shampoos, and right, just to keep it on brand and a bit of conspiratorial, do you think it's weird that we're told that we have to wash our hair every day, right, with these chemicals, and even if we're bald, we've got to wash our heads with a different thing? Do you not think it's strange that we're rubbing those chemicals almost directly into our brain? And the same with toothpaste. I'm sure I've brought this up before. Toothpaste seems crazy, mate. Toothpaste seems like a crazy invention. Because if you're telling someone they've got to do something every day, mate, odds are that thing's bad. I think one of the biggest fuck-ups in the world, right, is when they've told people stop smoking, smoking's bad for you, but keep brushing your teeth. Because smoking seems to have a lot more benefits for you than toothpaste. Toothpaste has maybe 2 benefits for you. It cleans your gums and it cleans your teeth. But I don't know what that does when you're pushing all that into your gums and getting all of that into your bloodstream. Why do you need to get toothpaste into your bloodstream so much? What's it doing to our liver and our kidneys and our fucking blood and our fucking lungs and that? I don't know what that's doing. That same blood that's rushing through our gums all the time, that we're rubbing fucking Colgate into, is then going into our brains, mate. Going into our ear canals and fucking down our bodies. You're filling your penis with toothpaste, boys. It's just fucking mental. But it's got to be something in it, mate. Shampoo just seems dodgy, innit? Rub all this into your face. Rub all this into your brain, There's no... I mean, you've got hand wash as well. Hands are one of the most sensitive parts of your body, and we have a specific wash for hands. Why? Why do we have that? Face wash as well, mate. A face wash. It's all a scam. It's just all a scam. It's either all a scam or that it's very important that they introduce all these different chemicals at different parts of our bodies so that they can mix properly as they rush up our fucking veins, like a fucking septic cut on your arm as your veins start to turn black, but instead of your veins turning black, they just become this thick gelatinous fucking imperial leather moving up your arteries, and then as soon as they hit your shoulder, mate, you're fucked, because it hits all the other blood in your torso, and all these chemicals mix together and just fucking, I don't know what they do, but they've got to be doing something to people, and it's something that someone should really look into. It's something that I worry about quite a lot. Getting back into the book though, drain unblocker would be a convenient solution which is clean and efficient. Once you've used what you need, the lid is replaced and the bottle's stored away, but with the Sink Snake you get multiple uses. It's just used and then placed in the drawer until next time you need to use it, and that seems pretty dirty to have this fucking dirty hook in a drawer. Alternatively, you could use this once and then act proactively, purchasing something that covers your plug hole and catches the vast majority of the hair. It seems a safe assumption that people will not think this way, as many want to resolve a problem rather than avoid a problem, but it's wrong to assume, so let's see what the reviews say. Useless crap. Tried both quote-unquote snakes, and both of them immediately lost the brutch part, which went down into the pipe, clogging it further and leaving me with an even bigger problem than before. And then Kelly said, absolute muck. JJT says about the sink snake. Don't even consider buying this product. It's a waste of time, effort and money. For what you get, a piece of Velcro on the end of some bendy wire that'll come off in the end with seconds of going down the plug, and it'll cause 1,000 times more aggro than the product as Velcro. I don't normally write reviews, but this is such a poor design that even I stop one person from buying this product. It will be worth it. Now, do you see what I mean about not being... You shouldn't allow idiots the internet. None of these reviews really read very well. I've wrote most of them word for word, and as I'm trying to read them out loud, my brain's trying to correct it as we go. And all the reviews were like this. I've wrote pretty unanimous reviews, really. It seems to have annoyed most people that bought it. Now, to describe what it looks like... If you imagine a trapezium shape of Velcro on the end of a fucking long rubber tube that's got some wire in it, it kind of looks like a phone charger, but for like a giant's phone. And it comes with a picture of a fucking sink as well, so you know what a bathroom sink looks like. Another review here, if I can read it, it says... It is labelled flexible, but it is not. Just a piece of plastic covered wire with a stiff brush on the end. I expected nylon or some such material so that it would indeed go round the bends of the waste pipe, but the wire was too rigid and wouldn't go as far as the blockage, and when you remove it, a task and a half, it just twisted up a bit of wire. Laughably, it comes up with a hook to hang in the cupboard for next time. It's already in the bin, hence why I'm looking here for something that will work. Note, I didn't buy it from Amazon, which does tell you it's just wire. Last time they fall for TV advertising. So what this person's got a problem here with isn't so much the sink snake, but it's a problem with JML. This next item is called the Shoe Store Box Underbed Shoes Organizer Storage Tidy 12 Pairs Pockets. Rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? A totally ridiculous name. We'll refer to this one as the Shoe Organizer. This is a product which takes your shoes and hides them under your bed. Possibly the most inconvenient location to keep your shoes. Rather than keeping them by the door, you can file them away to be forgotten about forever. And as the name suggests, it's designed to keep 12 pairs of shoes organised and separate from each of the other pairs. It's tap meat. There's no other word for it. It isn't kitsch, it isn't a niche item. It's a flat plastic bag for shoes. Shoes are made to withstand the outdoors. Dust isn't going to affect the shoe. They're going in and out of the rain at some point in their lifetime, and they're going to get something spilled on them. So why, when they're in your home, like why would they be so delicate when they're in your house? Storing them away to prevent tripping up over your own shoe is understandable, but shelves, nails on the wall, a box, even a designated shoe pile in the corner of the room. It just looks flimsy, and for this product, that is acceptable. It needs a certain amount of fluidity to it because shoes are all different shapes and sizes. It's also being hidden under a bed if it's used correctly, so its aesthetics are unimportant. One obvious issue is that what shoe size was this aimed at? It doesn't say. A 24-11 size shoe is going to fit in there comfortably. If the buyer has a smaller shoe size, are they able to partition it accordingly to be able to fit more pairs? Just too many unanswered questions. So just as a wonder, anyone that's in the Discord reading this and listening to this, what do you think of this then so far? Like, are we is this the worst episode we've heard? Or are we enjoying it? Maybe we're enjoying it. I don't know. This all just seems I don't know. I feel bad because I'm not telling you about fucking aliens and that, but this I just want to prove to you that that I'm not lazy, I'm not lazy, so I'm gonna instead of researching, just gonna read you this. I'm really getting really hung up on this. My head is melted, guys, melted. This doesn't feel like something that'll probably stay in the show. I might edit this bit out, but I'm just fucking. I just need to fucking be able to sit down and stick a knife in a fucking dead rat meat and just sit on my own and not have to fucking speak to people like verbally or look someone in the face and just peel the skin off of some rat's meat and just fucking sit and smile to myself whilst I listen to some guy who's fucking saw Bigfoot last week. I just feel like I've got loads to catch up on as well. Fucking UAM TV, mate, has been posting loads of stuff, but I can't sit and listen to it at work the past few weeks because all these fucking old and middle-aged women sitting around, they're just going to be like, should you really be listening to stuff like that? That's not true, don't you? You know it's not true that there's fucking reptilians living in the sewers and watching your every movement. You do know that, don't you? No, I don't know that, and you don't know that either. I had some right discussions with them, mate, some proper fucking chats, and they just, instead of discussing what I was actually saying, they just be like, oh right, yeah, okay, Jack. No one ever wants to fucking discuss or debate things, man. No one wants to fucking learn, innit, and it's fucking annoying. And I just fucking, like a few weeks ago, I found this guy who was talking about how he found out that Bigfoot can turn into a moth. And I've not been able to look into it since because I've just been too busy. And it's getting to me. It is getting to me. But soon I'll get back to normal and I'll be fucking, I'll fill up my head with information again. That's one of the things this show, it's nearly the year, I think it's nearly been a year since I started doing these. This is the 51st, I think, 51st episode for Threshold FM, so it's nearly a year's worth. So this feels like an anniversary special in a way, the penultimate anniversary special. And I don't know if doing this has been good or bad for my head, to be honest, because I still have all the fucking, voices is a strong word, maybe the wrong word to use, but words rushing round my head, like someone reading books to me all at once. I still have that, but it's not as loud anymore because it feels like I've emptied it all out to you guys, and that's kind of nice, you know. It's kind of nice to know that I can do that. I've never known that that's something you can do. If you just fucking talk about all the stuff you hear in your head, it kind of goes away for a bit. The fucking weird dreams haven't gone away or out like that, but that bit has. It's a bit more, days are a bit more peaceful now, but still I kind of miss it. So I need to find fucking weirder and weirder stuff, I think, to fill my head with again. But I don't know. It's a bit odd, and I just feel like I may be letting you down with this. But we'll get back into the reviews of the I've forgotten the name of it, obviously, because it's a shit name. We'll get back into the reviews of the Shoe Store Box Underbed Shoes Organizer Storage 12 Tidy 12 Pairs Pockets. And let's see if any of the reviews answer any of the obvious questions that we may have about the product. Patsu says, this is hardly tidy, as the pockets are so poorly sewn together. This is the first time I have been unhappy with a product. 2 stars. In this picture, this item looks solid and strong. In reality, it is soft and pliable, and in my experience, the shoes wander through the whole thing as the dividers are not attached at the bottom. It doesn't slide under the bed, as there is no solid base on the whole thing. It is only worth burning. 1 star. Layla says, the quality of the storage box is very poor. Partitions are not fixed to the bottom of the box, and as a result, shoes end up in one big pile. Waste of money. But I'll give it 2 stars. It's mad, innit, what people will give 2 stars. People are fucking devastated with these things they've bought, but they'll still give it 2 stars rather than 1. These reviewers are all severely disappointed with the shoe organizer. Understandable, but at a retail price of £4.35, it could be argued the buyers are expecting far too much for the money. There isn't anyone that dislikes a bargain, but they could save £4.30 by visiting the local supermarket and buying a carrier bag and still achieve the same outcome. And it does look like a fucking carrier bag just with shoes inside it. Fuck it, we'll have a song and all. This is Mr. Nice Guy, Smokey Joe and the Kid, and Miss Diggy. Oh, just a minute, guys. I just wanted a little calm advert for you, a little calmer advert. And if you're like me, a pseudo-intellectual, what you might enjoy are my books. You've got Uneducated Guesses, where I found a load of big words I don't know the meaning to, and then tried to work out what they mean by breaking down the syllables and drew an illustration for each one. You've got How to Date an Antique Table, A Lover's Guide, which is a book that will tell you how to get your end away with an antique table, complete with how to find an antique table, where to take an antique table on a date, like you could take it dogging, you could take it to the cinema, you could take it for a picnic, and some chat-up lines as well, like, I know I'm drunk, but you look absolutely canted. And even then you got some pictures in the back of some of my taxidermy and that as well. And you've got my third book, More You Know, which is a book of very well-researched fake facts. Just a book of lies, basically. And some of them were suggested, as in topic-wise, were suggested by some of the people from TikTok. So you might even, if you took part in that, you might even have your username on the first couple pages of that book. Anyway, if you, like I say, if you're enjoying these, you might like the books. And you can get access to the books through Patreon or through my website. Or fucking let you crack on with the show, guys. The next item that we're going to discuss was described in the fucking contents page as the novelty faucet, but here, the actual name of it was Exotic Buy Novelty Home Bar Portable Coke Faucet Dispenser Soda Soft Drinkings Drink Saver. Yet another mental name. And it's worth bearing in mind that they are listed as these names so that they appear on multiple people's searches, because let's face reality, who's going to buy this with an initial interest in the item? Like, who thinks they need these things? It's described as a novelty item and listed as a bestseller, even though there is conclusive evidence that it does not serve its purpose. It's designed to be a single optic for bottled beverages, sodas in particular. It is in response to tiresome pouring of bottles into glasses. To use, you simply replace the lid with the screw-on dispenser, place the bottle upside down and move the lever to pour your drink into your chosen vessel. It's a struggle to comprehend the sort of person who's going to look at this and think, yes, finally, a way to pour my drinks that saves time and effort. And from using the pictures as a reference, it's designed for the average 500ml plastic bottles, which are, you know, no one pours them into glasses. Like, who pours one of them fucking, like a regular Coke bottle into a glass? You fucking weirdos. What a fucking waste of washing up. The base plate, which rests on a table, looks like it's going to struggle to stay balanced with anything bigger than that anyway. A bewildering fact about this item is that it's frequently bought alongside a gimmicky spaghetti strainer. And it's obvious that these products are aimed at both the lazy and the moronic. Either that, or they're aimed at extremely high earners who cannot afford to waste any time at all in their day, as their wage gets them so much money that to waste a few seconds would be detrimental to their earnings. The alternative way to empty a plastic bottle would be to pour it. Another way would be to siphon it with some form of hose. And looking at the product, it's easy to assume that it will work, but may cause the drink to fizz or become flat because the thread of the dispenser might not fit every bottle perfectly. Maybe it won't fit any bottle even remotely, rather than picking holes though in a photograph. Let's see what the reviewers had to say. The player said, I can't begin to tell you how frustrating this product is, so I screwed the bottle in. As others said, it was useless for fizzy drinks and spurted gas out. And it fitted tightly and securely. Only good thing about this waste of money. But do not think if you use it for water it will be any better. I put it in a bottle, correct fitting, and put water in it. Nothing came out. I left it for a while and came back to see an empty Coke bottle. I was excited at first, but it hadn't filled up anything. It had leaked. The whole bottom had leaked. Nothing leaks that much. So what do you think? Should I leave a 5-star rating? 1 star. Tenko says, doesn't work. Excited to use, but nothing comes out. 1 star. Avril has said, it leaks and does not pour very well. 1 star. These reviews aren't grammatically sound, but they do show a collective disappointment in the product. The player has even bought it after reading the reviews, which backs up the suggestion that this product's being aimed at idiots. And it's worth a Google, that one, because look up faucet dispenser on Amazon. It's a little red thing. It doesn't even make sense how it would fucking work. You can't look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. This next section's a bit different now, and it's called You Can't Put That There. Beauty is not some physical extra thing that is added to an object already complete. It is an intrinsic grace or perfection that is found in an object which fulfills its purpose with precision and economy. That's a quote from a bloke called Henry Strauss. Don't know who he is. It says MP here, so he must have been a politician. The next segment is about bridging the gap between people and products, more specifically, that wobbly bridge between a mentalist and their belongings, with a focus on people whom have found beauty and use within a product that others deem completely useless, but also looking at the interesting people who have found alternative uses for items with an already obvious use. Now, although these interesting people are the minority, it is worth looking at. It shows the way one object can appeal to all sorts of different people for a multitude of reasons. And this will hopefully show how innovation is not always happening in the studio, and maybe that isn't always a good thing. Yet on the odd occasion, it may be brilliant. It may influence a whole new range of items. It may lead a new marketing campaign in order to reach a new audience. However, it's all speculation for the moment. Let's journey together. Keep it closed. It's a fire door. Let's start on our very own doorstep with Plymouth. And it's easy to understand after a walk around the town that you wouldn't have to look very far for a strange person doing questionable things with something. In fact, the person I have in mind has quite the backstory to how they received the item and actually inherited both the item and their total disregard for public safety. During a different time, the early 1940s, when Nazis were rife and possible alien invasions were looming around the corner, and there's a good chance that, you know, the Hollow Earth was opening up and things like that as well. There, it's clear that people had a brilliant sense of humour in that time. A man, a member of the local auxiliary fire service, was transporting furniture from a burnt-out building to the local football ground when the ground was suddenly struck by bombs. That man was sent to a hospital and received a gift, a memento, to remember his hard work and experience. This gift got pride of place on shelves and got passed around the family homes more times than a delinquent nephew. One family member used it as a doorstop for a number of years, whilst others kept it on the living room shelf next to paint cans. And you've got to kind of question what sort of family displays empty paint cans on a shelf in the living room. But, I mean, that's a lot of questions, but we won't get into that. This item seemed to be the bad gift of the family, the gift that purposely gets re-gifted every few years as a little private joke for the family. The second to last time it changed hands, it was given as a housewarming present to a newlywed couple from the same family. Not like a couple from not a couple from the same family. Like, I know there's a lot of rumours about the Southwest and that, but that's not what I mean. There's no evidence that these pair were actually related, and that's not what I'm getting at. There was just a new married couple, and one of them was from the family. Unfortunately, the last time it exchanged hands, it was the Royal Navy removing it from the family home, because this object was an incendiary device from a German bombing raid. So let us recap. The man lying in hospital after helping his community was handed one of the very bombs which caused his injuries, a pressure-activated explosive. Right? An uncle kept it as a doorstop, and it's pressure-activated, so he's lucky it didn't fucking burn his house down or fucking, set his leg on fire or burn his dog. And everyone's got a weird uncle, innit? Like, that's something to remember as well. Everyone does have a weird uncle, but most weird uncles are sort of, you'd only be niece by marriage. Come on, come in the bathroom here. I'm gonna fucking, I don't know what the pervy uncles do. I'm gonna fucking come here, let me lick your toes. I'm gonna show you my bumhole. I don't know. I've luckily never had a pervy uncle. Not that I can remember anyway. Trauma's a hell of a thing. It's safe to assume that they never had many arguments in the family though, innit, because they obviously weren't slamming the door, or at least no one threw tantrums, because if it did get caught in a door slam, that would have been severely detrimental to the family's health and well-being. Could also suggest that the parents who gifted this to their child and partner wasn't very approving of the wedding. And I've got a picture of it there, and it's just like a rusted tube, if you can imagine a rusted tube. That's what an incendiary device looks like. Next section is called Open Wide and Say Arse. An obvious avenue to explore would be perverts. More specifically though, experimental perverts. Now, it comes as no surprise that people the world over insert foreign objects into their anal cavity for enjoyment. What will come as a surprise is the wide spectrum of things that have been used for such endeavours. It would be easy to show and explain how these individuals have found alternative uses for jam jars, children's toys, stationery, glassware, household appliances, camping accessories, kitchen utensils, and even small animals. Richard Gere. It would also be easy to pad out these pages with cheap jokes and make fun of these brave members of society. But that'd be too obvious. Instead, here are the top 5 things that doctors have removed from people's arseholes. In 5, battery-operated torch. There are many reasons to use a torch in dark areas, but it seems sexual experimentation is one of the main ones. In 4. Light bulbs. It takes a certain level of bravery and or self-loathing to shove a very thin glass vessel inside of an area full of muscles and blood vessels. In 3. Mobile phones. Whether it's the vibrations that get the user off or the potential wordplay that excites them is unclear. In 2. Unopened sauce bottle. It had a condom on it, and this is by far the most upsetting if you let your imagination run free, because it implies he was planning on using it later as a sauce for his meal at some point. And, drum roll please. A material with many, many uses. Epoxy resin. And I've used epoxy resin for things as arseholes. I've never put it in my arsehole, but I've put arseholes in epoxy resin. More specifically though, 300 millilitres of epoxy acrylate resin with uses primarily in building. This is by far the most creative anal endeavour. There's only one written record of epoxy resin being used rectally, and it isn't very smart. In fact, it's particularly stupid and not a good idea at all. However, it could be seen as genius because nobody else had ever done this before. The medical paper accompanying this story states that in 1987 presented a patient who was voluntarily given a concrete enema that was introduced by his sexual partner. This is the only similar case I could find at the time, but the intention was slightly different as a second person was involved. A final byproduct of this activity was a perfectly accurate cast of the patient's anal cavity. It's shown there was no damage or illness within this part of his body, so that was a benefit. However, even though there was no damage to the area and due to the resin cast in his tube so perfectly for a 16cm length, there was no natural or slightly manipulative methods to remove the item. The surgeons had to resort to a laparotomy, which means that they cut it open to remove it, and a colostomy was added to aid healing. Fortunately, the patient made a full recovery and refused to have psychiatric counselling, insinuating that they were in no mind to stop experimenting. Next section's called Sentimental Material. Some people use items for as long as they will still fulfil their specific purpose. Then, they'll throw them away or sell them. The individuals that then buy these items usually want to upcycle. Upcycling is giving an old product a new lease of life, such as wooden pallets, often turned into cost-effective garden furniture or cheap fencing. Pallets are also used to display potential small garden designs, including how to add depth into a small garden. They can also be used to add height to existing furniture. None of these functions are their original purpose, but it's not exactly creative, is it? Sticking with outdoor spaces though, some people get pleasure from not throwing things away. These people may get influence from exhibitions such as the Tatton Flower Show, and it's at these shows where both amateurs and professional passionate gardeners display their designs and creations. It is not unusual to witness upcycling at these shows, such as old leather suitcases, Wellington boots and wheelbarrows. Some reasons people may upcycle is to express themselves or feel part of a wider community which has influenced their design. They may have a special connection or memory with the original item, so to have the product grow with them may give the person a certain pleasure. Due to these multiple reasons for upcycling, there are countless uses for the way the products are used. For example, one person may decide to use an old fridge as a waterproof cupboard, whereas another person may turn it into an egg incubator, which there was a little callback in my university career, because I tried to turn an old fridge freezer that I took from someone's front garden, not back garden, someone had left a fridge in the front garden, so I took it, in a big fucking thing, and carried it back to uni, tried to turn it into an egg incubator, actually shorted out the electricity for the floor of the building. Pretty sure I almost sent myself to hospital as well. If I'd been touching anything, there was a hell of a fucking bang and a snapping noise. All the lights went off, all the plugs went off. It freaked me out, to be honest. Not much has ever really scared me, but that did. Anyway, so a little callback in there as well. I thought the teachers would appreciate that. Any item could be used for anything else within reason. As a designer, it is not impossible to comprehend one woman turning 30 chef knives into a reflective wall installation and then sticking all the handles together to create a bespoke tabletop. Whereas a different woman may reuse these knives by welding the blades together into a box using the handles as a lid. These ideas are purely speculation, even though well informed. Even if the use of these products is simply feeling pleasure from the activity, that is enough. Some products that are widely upcycled would never provide pleasure without an accompanying product or experience. The ways in which people reuse objects help anthropologists study expressive culture. To refer back to the old leather suitcases, these alone cannot give pleasure. They were a box designed to be easily carried around to transport clothes whilst the user went on holiday or visited a friend. Previously, the pleasure was received from the activity accompanying the item. It could be argued that the activity of upcycling will be what gives pleasure and not the suitcase, but it is a safe assumption that the creator may look back at their work and feel at least a certain level of satisfaction from the work. And then we've got a picture of a load of suitcases piled up that someone's planted up with plants. Let's have a song. And this is something a little bit different. This is Kevin's Journal by Reds. Alright mate, just a quick little advert for myself. If you're enjoying this, fucking join the Patreon, mate, if you can. For a little as a quid, 2 quid, 3 quid, tenner, whatever you want to throw on there, you get the same stuff either way. Obviously it's nicer if you put like 3 quid on rather than a quid, because I'll only get like 75p out the quid, but still it's 75p more than what I'm getting now. It's just you get access to video versions of these, discounts for canvases and maybe some other little bits off my website, and you get access to the PDF versions, that's the digital download versions of my books. Anyway, I'll let you get back onto your show. And this next bit here is called Keep It Clean or Wrap It Up. Remarketing a product is very important, but taking a sideway view at it can be quite interesting. Nowadays, a lot of products are used for things that just make sense, but quite a lot of the time that comes about through trial and error, or because people experimented with an already existing product. Let's take aluminium foil, or tinfoil as we call it. Nowadays it's very clear what it's used for, and it's usually packaged with its use on the packaging, with a lovely photograph, of like a roast turkey and that. Now, tinfoil is usually used to keep food fresh. This was not what it was originally intended for, though. It was originally sold as a means of banding your racing pigeon's legs. So for our modern day use of wrapping food up, it could be seen as a stroke of genius. Besides, if you were to band a racing pigeon's leg now, a plastic ring would be used. However, the use of an aluminium ring in a race may give your bird the winning edge. It is easy to understand why aluminium foil is now marketed towards the general public, because it means the producers of it make more money. Even though there is a lot of money in racing pigeons, and you can be looking at a few £1,000s for an established racing pigeon. So although it could be sold for more money to breeders of passerine, it would be sold in smaller quantities to them. So it would have to be purchased more and more by these people. You'd have to then market racing pigeons as well to be able to make more money out of tinfoil, basically. Whereas if you advertise food more, you sell more tinfoil. It just makes more money, And, if one person bought one roll of tinfoil, I guess you could look after generations of racing pigeons. A whole racing pigeon club could probably survive off one 50-metre roll of tinfoil. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't be something you could then sell. You'd have to really charge a lot of money for it or make the rolls a lot smaller. As compared to, the reasonably priced tinfoil that you can buy now that everybody uses to wrap up sandwiches and old food with and things like that. But, I don't think that's something they're going to do. They're not going to try and charge a lot for pigeon roll. But this isn't all going to be about tinfoil. I mean, a page on tinfoil probably be very dull. Although, if you was to actually read tinfoil, it could be quite enlightening. So, with this widely known thing of tinfoil, let's stick with something that's widely known as well. Play-Doh, mate. Now, Play-Doh apparently started out as a wallpaper cleaner, but a couple of factors came into play. Vinyl wallpapers and people allowing their children to play with the substance. All it took was some rebranding by the developer's son, Joseph McVickers, who added colours, and 20 years later, and the general public were putty in his hands, mate. Children the world over now play with Play-Doh, encouraging activity amongst children, possibly leading to the world's future designers and engineers. One design that would have the potential to ruin the McVickers' initial business investment is what is now known as bubble wrap. The sheet of sealed air pockets that are widely used across the globe to package goods was originally designed in 1957 as a 3D plastic wallpaper. It only took a few years for this idea to fizzle out, and it was then used as a packaging material. It is still used to this day because it's cost effective and reusable. And I use it when people buy stuff from www.worldaroundyou.com, things like bad taxidermy and that, and fossils and geodes and that, mystery boxes. They bubble wrap it all, mate. Fuck the environment, mate. Use bubble wrap. keep the McVickers in business. Whereas a wallpaper removed from a wall can't be used again as a wallpaper, and you would struggle to be successful packaging products because the bubbles would have popped. Then it's just wrapping it in cling film, really, like saggy cling film. It could also be used as a plastic sheet whilst you redecorate those horrid looking walls, I guess, if you was to really push it, if you were going to reuse the wallpaper. But who's going to do that? Because that means you've got to then put a sheet down to pull the wallpaper down, to put the wallpaper down as a sheet. It's silly, you've already got the sheet there, the decorating sheet. Whilst these last three products haven't been invented recently, nor have the newfound uses been discovered in the recent past, it's worth mentioning as it brings questions up. What will be discovered about modern inventions? More importantly, will people use this very dissertation as something other than kindling? Some questions are easier to answer than others. The conclusion. So-called, what was the point of this? A conclusion of sorts. Maybe it's a summary. It is definitely an amalgamation of the writer's thoughts. Is any of this next section based on facts? Is it more wild speculation? Is this truly a dissertation? Will you, the reader, be any more knowledgeable after reading this? Is the CIA repeating its Operation Northwoods tactics but directing them at Syria? Finally, some questions that is actually in there as well. So there we go. I knew there'd be a bit of conspiracy in there, guys. I'm actually smiling. If anyone follows the Patreon, you could probably see me smiling now. I'd forgotten all about this. Finally, some questions, but we'll never know the answers until it's too late, so allow me to answer them all with a shrug of the shoulders and a mumbled, maybe. Like a Saturday lad leaving a butcher shop, you're about to be left feeling disappointed with a shoddy wrap-up. So, conclusion. The Oxford Dictionary defines useless as serving no purpose. Philosophically, one could argue, what is purpose? The products that have been featured within these pages and have been given content, and they've given content to this book, which in turn will provide a percentage of marks towards my degree. Maybe that was the purpose of these items. Maybe the designs featured in Reviews, Refuse and Revival are yet to reach their full potential. Nothing is truly useless, and that is what this dissertation has taught me. Things can be fucking truly awful, but nothing is ever useless. Even if something doesn't do what it was originally intended to do, it eventually serves some purpose later on. I found this out when I wrote, "You can't put that there." Everything I wrote about had an original purpose, but someone had single-handedly defined each of their uses. What is the main purpose of an object? The main directive? The main aim of anybody creating anything? I think it's just to make money. By researching Reviews, Refuse and Revival and reading through hundreds of reviews for a boiled egg peeler, it's clear to me that people are making money from this nonsense. They may be turning a profit, but I would hope these aren't the only things that they've made. The objects have a clear purpose, and this purpose appeals to people who've struggled with a very particular problem. These people obviously have so much difficulty slicing watermelons or unblocking sinks that they don't have the time to read even a single review. The products in Reviews, Refuse and Revival may yet reach their full potential and later find a purpose which in hindsight will seem as obvious as bubble wrap making a terrible wallpaper, but being the perfect packaging material. Until that day comes though, they are useless in the sense they cannot be used for what they are supposed to do. Some of the items may only require a little tweak to make them usable. The sink snake, hair drain removal tool, plumber's quality, for example. I think if this was made to a slightly higher quality, it would most likely get the hair out of the drains. Even if the only improvement was attaching the hook and eye pad to the wire with a stronger adhesive, it would harvest some human hair. Another example of a product just being poor quality is the shoe store box underbed shoes organiser storage tidy 12 pairs pockets. Who knows though, maybe this just needs a catchier name and it'd be more useful. It'd certainly be more palatable. I'd call it the slipper shoe away. It's aimed at storing under a bed, slipper, it's perfect. Now, it has a bit of context as well with that name, and it seems like it has had some level of thought go into it. Immediately better. Now, it has more marketable name. All it needs is some support in the walls separating the compartments, and it may be worth buying. Although it's got no real place in the home, it isn't truly useless as you could keep things in there. Even shoes. A useless bomb, dropped with the intention of striking fear and maybe killing people, was repurposed as a gift. Then it became a family heirloom and eventually a doorstop. The Germans never intended an incendiary device to bring joy, unless in the sense of schadenfreude in the eyes of the pilot or commanders. But it did bring joy. Sure, it failed its initial job, but it went on to live a life, a good life, next to some paint cans and holding a door open for people. I think it's incredible that somebody would keep an unexploded bomb and allow it to rest on an elevated surface, and that it took repeated impacts from a door. That shows how truly useless it was as a bomb. I think the owners of it probably considered it, but decided if it was going to explode and burn their house down, it probably would have done so by now. Not all innovations are positive, as I witnessed with the anally inserted items in Open Wide and Say Arse. These all resulted in visits to A&E, and who knows if the users of these objects managed to achieve their goals. They certainly wanted to put things up their bottoms, and by golly, they got things up their bottoms. It would probably have been more of a success for these twisted individuals if they'd been able to recover the items afterwards, maybe even use the items for their original purpose to illuminate a room or contact a friend. But life is a constant learning curve. Unfortunately, some curves are steeper than others, and I fear that may have been what caused the objects to get lodged in the first place. I'm unsure if health professionals could ethically hand their belongings back to them. After all, they are their possessions, but the doctors and nurses have got to know that the patients aren't going to stop adventuring, in quotes. Of course, I haven't asked the doctor. They're very important people and they don't need some idiot asking them questions. If deep down that they know these people haven't learnt their lesson, it just seems adamantly clear to me that a man accidentally seals up his back passage and then declines the offer of psychiatric counselling. It shows that he hasn't learned anything. Whilst sealing up the only exit is never a good idea, it is a very innovative way to use an object. Innovations bring me back to rebranding. Rebranding items is an important way of giving a useless or outdated product a use. Play-Doh wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Joseph seeing it as a way of entertaining young children. The children's toy market is huge, mate, and is easy to reference in day-to-day life. Everyone at some point will have a conversation about the toys they remember from their childhood. Talking about the wallpaper cleaners you remembered is a totally different conversation. It's the sort of discussion that marks the end of a dinner party, just like a malleable wallpaper cleaner. It's not going anywhere. Seeing as nobody is coming over for any more dinner parties, you may as well upcycle that old table and dining set and all now. And upcycling is more personal experience than rebranding. As I said earlier, it allows a person to express themselves and it won't necessarily be to make money, unlike its industrial counterpart, rebranding. Maybe it's just a piece of furniture with sentimental value that the owner can't bear to get rid of. The owner will go to the extremes of their crafting capabilities to make sure it'll still fit into their redecorated home, meaning both the owner and item will achieve things that may never have been achieved before. Products like the watermelon slicer lend themselves well to upcycling, as I think it'd make a pleasant stationery sorter if it was covered with some fancy wallpaper or fabric, or maybe as the top of a homemade mobile for the new baby in the family. Obviously now thinking back, you'd want to dull them blades, because you're just putting like fucking 12 knives over a baby's crib. But there is a deep link here between both concepts. The stationery sorter being used to separate the rubbers, sharpeners and pencils on a desk, whilst the mobile separates a baby from the realms of consciousness. Just in the same way the original concept was to separate the watermelon from itself. You know, we're getting deep there. Very deep. I believe nothing is useless. This can be applied to all aspects of life, but it isn't a very interesting way to show what I've learned, so let's get deeper and wrap this all up with a little story to illustrate my point. A metaphor, if you will. Imagine an homeless man, Steve. Now, Steve is addicted to heroin. He steals from everywhere he goes, attacks people in the street to fund his fix, and he's never had a job, nor has he ever wanted one. To society, he serves no purpose other than to perpetuate the stereotypes surrounding homeless people, but within his community, he's a rock. Everyone can rely on Steve. One day a local child becomes homeless, and Steve takes it upon himself to make sure that child is as safe as possible, and always feeds that child before himself. Steve's no longer seen as useless, at least not to the child. In the child's eyes, he's her saviour. Steve is a hero. And that's the end of the dissertation. Obviously there's pages of references behind it at the end, but that's how it ends, guys, with Steve as a hero. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in a bit. I think we've got a bit of HDR later and Jim will mix it. I'll be back tomorrow with Jimmy for Truth Seeking at 7. I'll fucking see you in a bit, guys. #Steve. Thanks for listening, man. I won't take up too much of the time because it's over, and hopefully you're listening to all of these one after the other, or on repeat, maybe the same episode on repeat. But fucking leave us a review if you can, mate. Fucking share it with a mate. Send it to your nana. I don't mind where you send it to, but if you get more people listening to it, thank you. If you did enjoy it though, fucking join the Patreon, mate. www.patreon.com/worldaroundyou. There'll be a link in one of the links in the description, I would imagine, of the one you're listening to. You can join for £1, £5, and you get access to all the video versions of these. You'll end up about 4 or 5 episodes ahead as well through Patreon. And you get access to some of my books as well. And a little discount code for some of the canvases as well. But even if you don't join that, fucking thanks for listening to it, mate. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully, here's the next one.